Everybody. Okay, let's stand, please, for the pledge. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is part of the process, part of the budget process, where we present to the association the recommended budget. The board is here. We welcome all your comments, and we will have a comment section after the presentation, an overall summary of everything we did. I would ask everybody that comes up to make comments to please limit it to 5 minutes. Okay? Let's start. All right, so before we get into the presentation, just a couple of things I want to talk about as far as the process. As I mentioned, this is an opportunity for the association to make comments, and I'm sure you all will, of course, constructive. We first proposed the budget, and it was posted on 12/16/25. The second version was posted 1/9/26 with a detail of what the changes were. Budget and Finance presentation was held on 12/18/25, and that video is on the website. The board did their review on 12/19, again on the website. Just a couple things as far as our bylaws. Section 9.04 of the bylaws states, the general manager shall prepare a proposed annual budget and submit it to the board of directors not less than 90 days prior to the beginning of the fiscal year. We did that. We certainly did that, and we probably one of the earliest times that it was completed and presented. The board shall, section 5.14A of the bylaws, the board shall approve a budget for the ensuing year at least 45 days prior to the beginning of the fiscal year. So the beginning of the fiscal year is May 1st. You can count back to 45 days. I am sure that this budget, well, it's my opinion that the budget will be approved before that by this board, constructive board. Okay, let's get into the slides. All right, so the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget. What were the key items that were addressed? Well, certainly public safety. We've been through this many times. All of our surveys state that Ocean Pines is public safety is at the top of the list. Maintenance, it seemed to be a bigger issue when I did this maybe 8-10 years ago, but it continues to be very important in the budget and very important to Ocean Pines. Infrastructure. We've certainly been working on the infrastructure over the last 7-8 years. So on the amenities side, food and beverage, aquatics, golf, racket, across the board, we've been working on the infrastructure, the grounds. We do want to talk about today something that is a little different than the last several years or decade, is the elimination of the easement cutting by Public Works. And welcome to comments on that. We have talked about it during the year where we would reallocate, and it certainly is in this budget, reallocate the amount of funds allocated in the budget to the cutting of the easements and what we were really getting for it. That money has been repurposed towards drainage, but certainly open to comments, and we'll explain everything that was done by that. I know Eddie's here and Steve has all the numbers. The roads, the annual road evaluation and resurfacing, the program is in. Bulkheads, same thing. We have jump-started all those programs 7-8 years ago, and we continue to enhance our focus on that as well as our funding towards that. The drainage, the development of the LEAF program, maintenance on aging drainage pipes. We've allocated money and continue to allocate money to the drainage pipes. We've done the major pipes. We've seen a major difference in drainage. Mailboxes, we have a mailbox program where all this money has shifted there. So in addition to a decrease in the assessment in general over the last 7 or 8 years, we've increased the amount of money we put into infrastructure, right? And safety. Big amount of money went into safety. So we certainly, I believe we continue to meet what the association wants there. Capital, Linda will talk more about capital this morning. There is a lot of money, a lot of cash this year towards capital. No surprise, it's everything we spoke about throughout the year, and we certainly will make everybody aware of that today. Initiatives, well, obviously the fire department and food and beverage, what we're doing there. Okay, third page. So a summary of the budget, and we're not going to get into the detail today, but we are prepared to, if anybody wants to get into the the line items, which we've already done already. But I certainly have a team here equipped to do that if somebody does. But the overall summary, well, we all know that we have to do a bottoms up. We've said that many times, and we did that. We met with all the department heads. I've given the overall vision, the objectives, and they've certainly met it. The bottom-up prepared proposed budget, I have to say that it's part of our regulating documents. Forecasted current fiscal year, we've done that. Met with Budget and Finance Committee, checked the box, conducted a DMA study with a working session. Very big project, very important tool. I happen to be fortunate enough, or whatever, on 2017 when this association decided to have a tool like that. This association, and credit to everybody that was involved with it, was ahead of the curve on that, because now you know that the regulations out there in Maryland State that you need to have a capital review or whatever, what a DMA study, and we were ahead of the game. I'm sorry, reserve study. We have it. This was the third time we did it. I brought them in several years ago. We called it DMA Light. It certainly helped us, and it helped me and everybody up here forecast where we need to be. And the results that we received from DMA was pretty much on target of what we have presented and prepared this association for over the last several years. We reinvested in the assessment of balance of retained earnings resulting from favorability to the budget. So a lot of times, and I've read it in the papers, I read it on the forum, a lot of people, what are you doing with this favor? And it's not surplus, it's favorability. That favorability has been reinvested into the assessment. So a quick example of that is, if we took that money, that favorability, which builds up in the balance sheet, right? It builds up, and we saw that. It happens to be on a line called retained earnings, but on your balance sheet, you have where this money is. We've utilized that each year to keep the assessment level, to keep it at that lower assessment from, if I was just to look at it now in general, 2014. Now, I know we've been lower the last several years, but since we started this, you got to go all the way back to 2014 to find a lower assessment. And keep in mind, back then, if you looked at safety, which is a big number in our assessment, it was 22%, give or take a couple, because I'll get a couple emails on this if it's 21%. Today, it's 42%, and we still lowered the assessment. So obviously, if we didn't do that, the assessment probably would have been lower, but we made the right move. It is the right decision. There's no doubt about that, for us to be competitive and to have the safety that we all want. The overall body of work this year, I believe, was the most brought forth by any team since I've been around, which is over 2 decades. The overall body of work this time included the proposed budget, which is now a recommended budget, the DMA study, which is a huge tool, which I've spoken about, and we'll talk more about it, and the capital investment, the amount of money that we're putting into our infrastructure, the firehouse. And I've spoken about that over the year, if not the last 2 years. For what we're getting, and there is an increase in the assessment for them. We've talked about this, and we had a referendum on it, which was very high in favor of it. To see this assessment go up by only a modest $25 for it I think it's good. And then we know that the other $15 on the proposed budget, which is now recommended, is for the increase in the water from the wastewater treatment. We're all familiar with that. If not, we will certainly answer the questions on it. So there's your $40. The rest of the assessment pretty much was the same, but we did cover inflation, salary increases, premiums are on our insurance. Insurance is a big number. It's a big number in this assessment. It's pretty much anywhere. And by insurance, I'm talking about liability as well as medical. That number goes up more than the average inflation number that we all are familiar with. Our salaries are pretty much in line, but our salaries, as pointed out in the past by board members to me, and rightfully so, our salaries are based on merit. It's not inflation, but they kind of somehow go hand in hand. We have to be competitive with other agencies. Okay, front page. Steve will talk more about the safety, the numbers there, since it's a big number in his slides. Strategic plan. Linda's going to talk to you about the strategic plan. Linda.
Okay, strategic plan. There is a strategic plan out there on the website. It coincides with the budget as well, but we have 5 main goals: achieve a strong and sustainable financial position, maintain and enhance invest in our amenities and infrastructure, as John was mentioning at the last slide, enhance the customer experience. That's the info.oceanpines.org and all the transparency through communication plan. Continue to provide an enhanced investment in safety, police and fire EMS, and develop our team. So like he just mentioned, staff coaching and development, and benchmarking salaries and benefits. As far as the capital summary, we have the total capital is $6,029,807. That includes the use of funds to the golf maintenance, racket sports, fire department. That includes the new South Side Station, beach club, aquatics, public works, and recreation, which will be broken out later on as well. Okay.
Linda, let me just jump in. So when you look at the numbers, Linda has it, I believe they're behind me. When you look at the amount of spend that we are, and it's all been explained, it's been reasoned out, and it's right. There's over $6 million in capital. Go back and see over the years, 20, 25 years. It's one of the highest, if not the highest, thank you, if not one of the highest years ever that this association has invested in their infrastructure. All part of a reserve study, as Steve was mentioning to me up here, and they'll talk more about. All part of the plan that was way before us and how this place was built. We're doing it. Where did that money come from? Well, it came from the last 6, 7 years, most of it, but we've heard, oh, you have a lot of money in there, you have this, you have that. And at any given time, yes, you can see that. But we got to look at the total amount of years here and what needs to be done. And that money, it was proven in the DMA study that we were right to have that. And now you see it coming out. If we had a knee-jerk reaction and we used that money for something else or whatever, we wouldn't have had it now. Okay?
Okay, as alluded to from the previous slide, these are the capital summaries. This coincides with the DMA study that was done in October this year. So anything that has general replacement that was per the DMA study, it was recommended to do the replacement. That does include the firehouse, which is over there. Also, one of the other major expenditures is the irrigation. So that'll be phase 3 of the Gulf irrigation. So that does, like I said, coincide with the DMA study.
Steve will take us through some membership dues. There were increases in the memberships. We will talk about it. We will answer. I know that's very important to a lot of people, and rightfully so. But we will talk about it. There were membership increases. So let's let Steve start talking about it.
As you can see up there is the membership dues page. It's part of the budget package that's out online. As John mentioned, we did have some inflationary increases pretty much across the board. Membership in terms of total revenue dollars in the proposed budget's about $1.56 million this year. That's up from $1.438 million last year. On the swim side, we increased it 5%. On the racket sports, we did $5 and $10. On golf, we did generally $100 for individual, $150 for family. And then on the beach parking side, we did a small $5 increase. On the boat slip rates, we did 3% across the board, 5% on commercial slips, and the jet skis remain the same.
Hey, thank you, Steve. So let me just talk a little bit about that too on the increases. And I talked about inflation before and increases. So one of the increases that increased our assessment by $15 was the water and the wastewater. And anybody that owns a home, and I'm assuming everybody that's here today does, you received a higher bill because there were increases from the county for that. We got hit with it double fold in the sense that we did get hit for the usage, the increase like everybody did. We also got hit on, we do have in our possession many EDUs, and Linda will tell you what EDU stands for.
Dwelling
Unit. So sorry about that. So we do have in our possession over 100 of them. They're as valuable as gold today. But But we are being, I'll use the term taxed on it, but it may not be, depending on what you look at, being taxed heavy on it compared to the past. The county has explained that, so, please read up on that. So we do have a big hit on that. Where was the hit? Well, most of it, quite honestly, was on the EDUs, which we put into the assessment, but we did have increases in water usage. So obviously aquatics. So we built that number in, and that is part of the increase that we are at this stage recommending in the aquatics fees and memberships. So to offset that, the other place for it was, and again, it was across the board, but it was small. The marina did have some. It is included. Overall, I think the marina increases were around 3%. Probably 1.25 of that was to cover the water. So we've had that across the board. We built it in. I've explained to you where the overall increase is in the assessment on that. Okay?
Okay, user fees. So these are the daily rates. You can see those also part of the summary package that's online. We obviously consulted with the subject matter experts in each of the amenities, and also did some benchmarking analysis as we do every year. Looked at our competitors and came up with the small increases that we have factored in here. We have $1 increase on swim. We actually held flat racket sports, hoping to improve the volume number this year with marketing and the customer experience and the improved facilities down there. And then on the golf side, we did a $5 resident, $10 non-resident, which we did a lot of benchmarking, working with the new golf director. And we think we're still in the sweet spot locally with all the courses locally here. So. Next slide is water sewer. John was alluding to that. Obviously, it's been a big part of discussions the last few months in terms of the increased water bills that are out there. The EDUs is a big driver. We had lots of EDUs within Ocean Pines. We're also getting charged now a access fee on the mailbox lots, as the county calls them. And then we're also getting basically a different service pricing formula, which is adding to the increase. So you can see there in the chart what the effect is on the budget. You can see $162,000 in difference year over year, budget versus budget. That equates to about $20 on the assessment that we had to make up and reallocate costs as a result of. Yep.
So on this, and I just want to point out, if you can see the slide on the food and beverage. And food and beverage has been outsourced. And I want to talk more about it. Hopefully I fit it in today, how well that's doing and its effects on this assessment. But if you look on there, when they first came in and they signed that contract with us, the water cost was somewhere around 20, how much, Steve? 20,000, 21,000? Yeah. Now it's 71,000 plus. Yeah. So they just got hit with a $50,000, $60,000 increase just in their water. And credit to them, they're working through it. They have not spoken, credit to them on this thing. But I just want the association to know they got hit with that. It's a huge number. Okay. Public safety.
Yeah, the public safety, John discussed these costs, obviously been rising through the years. This chart just looks at the 15-year history going back to 2012-13. You can see in about the middle of the chart there, you have, I know there's a lot of numbers, but if you look at total safety, the cost of the assessment were $199 in 12 and 13. That has gone up to $377. Obviously, personnel costs because of recruiting retention, and then, of course, capital costs as well, with the infrastructure as well as the apparatus costs within the fire department for the market value of the equipment there. You can see that the percentage nearly doubles, 22% to 41%. But as John alluded to, we were able to keep the assessment during that same period, only increased it, what's that, $32 or yeah, just doing that in my head, $42. Yeah.
So Steve, just to put it in perspective, I mentioned 2014, the last time when kind of in general, that the assessment, I know the last couple of years it was lower, that the assessment was lower than where we're at today, or the average over the last several years. In 2014, per this slide, the total cost of safety was about how much? 164,000?
Roughly.
Yeah?
Mhm.
You're going to confirm that? Well, how much is it today? Today it's 377,000. So I'm just trying to put it in perspective. I put it in perspective in percentages. That's the dollar amount. If I'm off, please send an email to info and Steve will, but it's that big. And look, I'm saying it's the right thing to do. I'm just trying to show you where your assessment dollars are going. That's all. And it's going in the right places. Okay, and it is an overall summary of the budget. A lot of times we get into the detail, and we will get into the detail today, although we've done that. If anybody in their questions, I have the team here. We have all the detail to get into that. But the objective was to give you the overall so that you can see where your assessment dollars are going. So with that, I am going to open it up to public comments. The one thing I do want to say about the team, my team, our team, your team, this is probably, and I do say this every year, but it's the truth. It's probably one of the strongest senior management teams that we've had since we've been here. I also want to say credit to the board. It's been constructive. The leadership, the representatives this year, obviously John Layton, Jeff is here, Jeff Hebner, and Rick. But, again, the entire board, but those are the three that I deal with on a weekly basis. And it's been very supportive. Okay. Questions, comments? Please limit it to 5 minutes. This is one of the reasons we're here today for the comments, so I would hope there are some. Anybody? Karen? I knew Karen had a question. I may regret this. No.
Karen Kaplan, 32 Chatham Court. I wasn't going to say, but anyway, since nobody else is. On the marina slips, you're increasing 3%. What is your rationale for not increasing it more than that? And before you answer that, what have we invested into the marina this past year?
That's a good question. Do we have on the investment side? Can somebody pull it for me? We'll get there. And if I don't have it right now, Karen, we will send it to you. We certainly have it. It's in the detail. It's a good question. And you're right. And we put that out there. We increased it 3%. I'm showing that 1.25 of it was just for that water increase. I would use the term modest for that. There have been increases. We will continue to look at the marina. That was what the team felt at this time, based upon looking at the entire assessment. Now, with that said, we are the lowest in the area. Not going to do, but we manage to that. That's part of our objective for all our amenities. Is we want to try to cover our operating costs. We want to be competitive, but we always want to be a little lower than everybody else, which I believe we are across the board. So, is it something we will get you that investment number. And we have invested money down there. Steve's actually pointed out, I'm going to ask him to read it because the print's too small for me to read. Steve.
Yeah, so if we look at capital investments this fiscal year, and it's part of the controller's report, we finished up the jet ski lifts, and we did the gas pump dock cameras, and then we started to do a little bit of renovation. The total is about $45,000 in capital outlay.
Okay, thank you. I understand that you want to look at the whole picture, you want to be competitive, but with a waiting list of, I believe, over 100, it would just be logical there'd be a little more leeway there. That's a very, very minimal increase. That's my opinion. Okay, next, my other question is, I know there was some controversy over the committee appreciation dinner, and I'm wondering if you can tell me what is budgeted for next year for that event.
Yeah, Steve, hold on. Just give us a second. Linda's actually whispering it to me, but I want to make sure it's right. Just give us a second to check because I know it's going to be scrutinized. So getting back to the marina, that's the whole point of this today. Obviously, that's a good, very good comment. You know, what I would say, and I don't want to speak for the board, but I would believe that they would take it under advisement, as well as I will on that. And I'm sure there'll be discussions on it. I can't guarantee what will come out of it, but that's one of the reasons for today's meeting. So I'm just looking at board members. I think I'm getting a nod. So they'll look into it, but no guarantees,
It is 15,000 that we have
Yeah.
allocated to the budget.
Okay,
Right.
so,
which is less than last year.
yes, but we don't have any committees. We only have 3 committees now. So how do you rationalize that?
Yeah, so look, I don't want to talk for the board, but I have the answer to that, and so does Linda, as she's whispering it to me. It's not just for committees. The board has made that clear. It's for also volunteers. And I'm just looking over at a couple that are in the room, and I see they're going, yes. So the board wants to recognize volunteers, anybody, and we do have volunteers. I have volunteers that help me on different projects that we do that I call in and I ask. So anything else on that, I would go to,
Okay, that being said,
right,
I would hope that you would include the garden club next year
okay.
because they do a lot for the community and they do a great job. And they haven't really had a lot of recognition.
Okay. All
Thank you.
right, thank you, Karen, for coming up and having comments. Anybody else? Colette and then George. George, good to see you again at the meetings.
Yeah, Colette Horn, 35 Sundial. I will compliment you on this budget. I think you guys did a great job, and I agree that you have, if not the strongest, one of the strongest teams working in the association. The only question I had was in looking at those capital requests, the budget packet that you sent out, I am assuming that you're still following the practice of getting 3 bids when there are 3 vendors, at least 3 vendors available. But there were a lot of cases in which the bids were not there. And so I'm going to assume that
I'll
have they
answer.
been
I'll answer.
secured?
So first of all, you know, that's something that should always be brought up, and thank you for Colette. That is part of the process. With anything else, sometimes you cannot get, and I know Eddie's back there and I'm looking over and he's doing a little nod. Sometimes it's very difficult to get 3 bids. Sometimes they don't want to bid. In that case, and you'll see on there, on the bid sheets and everything, we have reached out to at least 3. We've reached out to them. They just decided not to bid. And I'm looking over at Eddie. Eddie actually wants to jump up and tell you what,
And it's not been approved yet. We just go to one vendor to get a price. When it gets approved, then we go get the 3 bids. We don't waste the time to get the 3 bids until it's approved because it may not get approved. So we
Okay.
just get one number from a vendor, known vendor that we've used before that's reliable, that we can trust for a number for the budget.
Okay, thanks.
yeah, and Colette, and let me just add in there, and what I've seen over the years here, when I first came here, I'm being honest. And I said it back then, you can go back and find the tapes or whatever. Contractors did not want to work with Ocean Pines. We see that today. Now we are going to be doing 2 structures with food and beverage. We have several vendors reaching out to Eddie and myself, wanting to know when, and we will post it when, because they want to bid with us. The firehouse, there was a lot of interest in bidding, and we did get several. When we did this structure, quite honestly, I had just come in. I couldn't even find somebody that wanted to work with us. And I've given credit to Marvin over the years. Credit to Marvin. I went to him and he helped me out on getting a contractor. And the other thing, one more on this, and this is a very good question because it is a big part of obviously the spend. Sometimes you're dealing with a vendor and they have been the lowest and you have a success rate with them. Sometimes you just got to roll with that, you know? So.
Thank
Okay,
you.
but good question. Thank you.
Yeah, item number 2 is a jump on to the issue of the volunteer dinner. I know a lot of people in Ocean Pines, and everybody I know volunteers. And if you're going to have a volunteer dinner that honors the volunteers, it's going to include almost everybody who lives in Ocean Pines. That's not happening. What's happening, it appears, is selecting certain volunteer groups. to invite to what looks like at least a $50 per plate event with open bar. That's a lot of our assessment dollar going to a select few. The Quilters by the Sea do a lot of great work. The crafters do a lot of great work and do fundraising and give money back to the association and support Parks and Rec, I think, mostly. There are a lot of volunteer groups that are hundreds and hundreds of volunteers altogether. And I'm not criticizing you, John, but I want to bring this up to the community that if you're going to be cherry picking who the volunteers are that you're going to honor. I just don't see that as appropriate. In the days that I was on the board, that 6 years I was on the board, that dinner focused on our committee volunteers who did work specifically for the board. And I agree that that's an appropriate use of association or assessment dollars to give back to those volunteers who work tirelessly every month on specific initiatives and ideas that then percolate up and eventually benefit the whole community. But I'm just going to say that I object to our assessment dollars being spent on a volunteer dinner that is based on cherry picking certain volunteers when almost everybody who lives here really falls in that category. The third point I wanted to
I just want to answer the second one. So, and look, I agree with you, and I don't want to speak for board members, but I know they agree with you also on volunteerism and how important it is. And we know that. This is a dinner, this is a board sponsored situation. The only thing I could say to you is the board has this town hall meeting to listen and everything. I'm sure they heard you. I'm sure they'll talk about it, and then they'll discuss it among themselves. So. That's a
Okay.
board decision.
And if I have at least 1 minute left,
Yeah, you go ahead.
one last thing is a question as to how you manage that 100-person wait list for the boat ramp. Are those people on the wait list association members, or are we also putting on that wait list people who are not association members?
So that list, and I'm gonna look it over at Ruth Ann, I haven't looked at it, it has both, you're right. It has association homeowners as well as outside. The number is very small for the outside. I have in my head somewhere around 90% plus is homeowners in Ocean Pines. I just want to remind everybody in the room and everybody in the association, based upon our tax status, we have to be open to not just Ocean Pines, but everybody. And everything we do, we are cognizant of that. So we cannot, just say it's just for Ocean Pines, but it's somewhere around 90% plus Ocean Pines.
Okay, and then fourth final thing.
All right.
I want to thank you for the comprehensive search that you did for the Gulf Operations Director and to congratulate you on finding a candidate who is highly qualified, has a great temperament and personality and a lot of skill. And I would say the golfing community is going to find themselves well pleased with what you did. Thank you.
And that's a great final thank you. And the young man's here today, homegrown. I'm going to let Steve talk to you a little bit about it. Steve has told me, and I saw some of them, we had over 35, but I'll let Steve fine tune it. Over 35 resumes, some of them from the Western United States with very good resumes.
Yeah, we did an extensive search process. We had a search committee, we had HR involved in the process, we had finance representatives, Gulf operations representatives. We had some internal candidates as well. And we ended up, like John said, we had about 35 from the outside. We did some virtual first interviews, then we had a final interview process. So it was very comprehensive, and Matt obviously was chosen as our ultimate pro here. But I think in terms of the final numbers, we ended up having 5 final interviews. Yeah. But yeah, welcome Matt aboard. We're happy and hope. Yeah.
Steve, is it true one of them was on a train coming in? We had to call them because Matt came into my office.
Yes.
Okay, based upon, George, wait, Karen, I'm sorry, I apologize. All right, Karen, this might be a record, two comments, all right.
Just to follow up on the marina slips question. For non-association members who have their boats there, do they pay a different rate? Yes.
Yes, they do. We have the
Thank
rates.
you.
Yeah, we do have the rates. They are published, they are on the website, but the answer, I know the answer you're looking for, yes, as well as any other amenity, they pay more. Steve actually has the
I believe it's
numbers.
10% more.
George, before I forget. Uh-oh, oh, no. T-Docs,
Yeah.
T-Docs, no.
I'll let that go. George Solak, 508 Tidewater Cove. I have a question on the DMA study. I'm not sure it's related to the budget, but in years gone by, we always had an amount of reserves we had to have based on a study, based on our assets. What percentage are we trying to target? I know we used to have a target out to, I believe it was 2030, maybe longer. You know, where are we at with that?
He was just sliding me on cue, which I asked him to do. So this actually, and I should have spoke to this. So thank you, George. And I know George was on BNF for many years, very constructive. So, and he's right. Back in 2017, if you were around and you were a part of it, which I was, Steve, I think it was his first year here. They came in and said, 100%. You need to be 100%. At least he started off with that. We came to some type of mutual agreement and the board approved the recommendation from the BNF. We believed 22 to 28% of 100% we would be able to function, and it did work. We proved it for the last 7, 8 years. So, and that's what George is asking now. He's asking me, what is the percentage now after this new study? And it's an excellent question. It's something I should have hit on today. I have hit on it in other meetings, but here's the answer to that. It's no longer a percentage. It's like anything else. Their ideology or how they approach it has changed from 2017. It's changed from a couple years ago. They're now telling us, and I'll let Steve jump in, and what's it called? The cash, what, Steve?
The minimum threshold?
Minimum threshold. So if you look in the DMA and it's in there, and I believe it was in one of the papers, they made copies of it, it tells us each year what the minimum threshold should be. So it's a dollar amount. Of course, you can make it a percentage. The percentage is way lower than the 22 to 28% that we implemented over these years, which he blessed, coming down from 100%. So there is a minimum threshold. If you look in the DMA, and it's online, and Linda can help you with that. And I know one of the papers actually had some of the summary pages in there. It tells you each year how much should be there.
Yeah, I did look at it.
It's very low.
Awful low.
It's,
Yeah.
so,
Compared to the 28.
so, and you're right, it's very low compared to the 22 to 28. But that's what the independent expert is now recommending. And that's not just for us. That's basically their approach everywhere. We have looked at that. I've spent a lot of time on it. I spent a lot of time on it with him way before he actually came in to do this study. The way I look at it in the discussions I had with him over the year is we have a lot of history here. We have everything mapped out, which he came in and blessed and made some changes to, whatever. We're not just looking at this year. We have forecasted out 20 years, 20, 25 years on where our spend is going to be. Even with that low number, as George called it, and there's nothing wrong with what he's saying, I look at it, do I always have money in there to cover the next several years? Because keep in mind, we do have an assessment each year where we put probably $2 million into the reserves each year, which when you calculate it out, we fall within his thresholds, as well as we receive money from the casino funds, which now is how much a year, Steve? 400, 500? 500. So that money's coming in each year, and that's pretty much going into reserve. So he was good with all that. The one, and what does he call that? Those high points, Steve? What does he call that? High cycle, right, Eddie? High cycle. So anytime you look in, this is important. Anytime you look at something out 15, 20 years, you're going to have what they call a high cycle. And we certainly have it. We have it in bulkheads. We have it in roads, where I may be spending at this, and then all of a sudden I get 3 years where I have to go up here, and then it actually falls way below. So we're trying to balance that out with the DMA study, and we came to working agreements with him on that, and it falls within the structure and what I believe the assessment increases will be over the next 5 years. Hopefully that answers your question, but you're right. It was a major change in the independent outside company.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
One more thing, and again, I might not be understanding it right, but the way I understand our contract with food and beverages, they're paying us a certain fee, which covers depreciation, et cetera, and all that. Do we at any point reap any profit out of that too, or how does that work? And again, I apologize.
No.
I think you probably went through that before.
No, it's fine. Yeah, and I should talk about, I'm hoping you go back on budget and finance, George, but
There's no openings.
no openings. Okay, so let's answer these two questions. They're, again, very good questions, and all the questions have been good. So you're right, on the food and beverage, the contract states that they would cover the depreciation. We gave them a number, and actually we gave to everybody. We wanted to cover our depreciation, so at least we're breaking even. They do that. When we did the contract, I think the depreciation was somewhere around, Steve, just give me the nod, 380? 384, whatever. It was around 380, 384, and they pay that. They pay it monthly. It's, I don't know, 30-something thousand dollars, and I got to say they're on time every month. So we are pretty much guaranteed to break even since those are our costs. We do have the cost, and I've talked about this in other meetings, the insurance on all the buildings and everything. It doesn't cover that. However, they do give us a percentage of gross revenue, gross, not net, gross, non-alcohol. And there's rules for that down here, and that's why. So they give us 6.5% of all non-alcoholic revenue. Just in general for this, and we can give you more accurate numbers, but for me in this, when we looked at it, we did last year, the last closeout year, they did $4.4 million in revenue, gross. That's not what we made, or that's not your net profit, gross. What I did is I went back and looked at 50% of that, because pretty much it comes out food 50-50. The beach club is more alcohol, but in general, just a general rule, comes out to 50-50. So the 2.2 million, 6.5%, that's what they would give us in addition to the depreciation. And that's what they're doing this year. So as of today, the calculation is somewhere around, I'm going to use a conservative number, Steve, so don't correct me too much, around 150,000. You can give or take, or give $10,000. So they're covering our depreciation. We're making $150,000 as of now. If I look at last year, the year that closed out, the year that we have an annual report for from an independent accounting agents, auditors, we lost after depreciation, roughly 100,000. So if you take where we were last year and just add those two numbers together, last year when we closed out the year, we lost 100,000. And I'm not saying, I'm just telling you numbers. This year, if it happens now, we made 150. So that's Steve, is that a 250 swing?
Yes.
250,000 to the positive. One of the reasons we were able to keep the assessment lower. And I did highlight, if we hadn't gotten hit with the water, it would have been only a $25 increase. Helps?
Yep, thanks, John.
Yeah, no,
And
great questions,
thank
everybody.
all the department heads for a great job on the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great questions by everybody. Come on, somebody else? Only quarter left. Sir, are you a homeowner? Are you a homeowner? Sorry? I need a ruling on that. Okay, you're a homeowner. Sir, why don't you come up here? You have to. I looked over at the governing, they gave me the nod, so you're a homeowner. Please state your name and address,
Tom, 305 Sunrise Court,
last name.
Rogers. And he's, she used to be
Okay,
a lawyer here.
sir, I know your mom and dad. Okay.
Okay, all right. So how do the 162,000 water cost increase affect the grounds maintenance budget specifically?
Good question. Steve.
The grounds maintenance, in terms of general maintenance, it does have a little bit of an effect because of the aspect. So you have some irrigation EDUs assigned there. So there is a few $1,000s to budget. The main impact is actually within admin, which is due to the mailbox lots and due to the unconnected lots, because we had about 71 unconnected EDUs that we were not getting charged for, and now we're charged for $209 a quarter.
Okay.
So there is a small impact, but it's minimal on the general maintenance side. It's more the aquatics qualif and admin.
Okay. The other question I had was about the irrigation. Are a lot of those in planning stages, or are they already kind of set and funded and put into motion?
So I want to make sure just speaking right. So you just repeat your question so I make sure I answer it properly.
Oh, okay. The transcript mentions about the significant irrigation work that you guys are doing. Are these projects funded and ready to begin, or are
Okay.
they still in the
I
planning
got it.
phases?
I got it. Okay, so yes, this is a major one, and it's good you're pointing it out, and I do want to speak about it. This is one of the most major capital intensive projects that we've done, and something that was designed 50 years ago and something we should have been replacing. We're probably 10, 15, 20 years behind replacing it. It has started, to answer your question. We are in the third year. Give me a nod over there, Justin. Third year, second year. We're in the second year with 2 emergencies. So
Yeah, so we're currently in the second phase of the renovation, but the entire system has been designed and planned
right.
out.
So we're almost done with the second, but with this budget is the third, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, the
so-
upcoming budget will.
So I think
have the
that's what
third
it is.
phase.
So as Justin said, to summarize this, we believe, we said there'd be at least 4 stages. We're almost completing the second stage. We're going to go into another emergency approved by the board. And then this budget would be the third phase. So it's happening. And probably, Justin, after this phase, you probably got half the cost done. Plus
Yes, we'll be a little above halfway through after this
plus the
phase.
pumping stations, which was big.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw a lot of work being done on that. It looks really good. Okay.
Good.
That's about all I got.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you for getting up there, Tom. Okay, because is that, yeah, I see, Colette. So we're going to allow, and I'm not even at an hour. So if anybody wants to ask a second, I see Colette raising, and certainly Colette, come on up. No. Anybody else want to raise their hand so I know? Sherry, I think, raised their hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to the questions that George had about the DMA study.
Sure.
I was looking specifically, it's a really nifty chart in the Ocean Pines or the Rock Edition newspaper that had to do with the bulkhead funding. And I see that the expected expenditures are wildly fluctuating from under $1 million to almost $6 million over the next 20 years. And I'm wondering, I know that that's funded by the bulkhead differential and the assessment. How are you going to be managing that, huge increase in what the expenditures are going to be in the, starting about 10 years from now? So the homeowners don't get a huge hit.
Yeah, no, it's, and again, this is an excellent question. So Steve's handed me all the schedules as he's supposed to do. We have schedules for all this, and we've had them even before with the DMA, and then we verified them with the DMA. So to answer the very good question Colette has is this. First of all, she's right. There are the fluctuations, and that's a function of how and when Ocean Pines was built. There were certain spurts in certain years where there was a lot more growth. So obviously now they're all coming due. So we do have a schedule, and I've said, when a lot of people talk about plans, strategic plans, long-range plans, we have them. We have binders with them. The easiest answer to that in general, when you're covering so much, is we do believe at minimum there would be a $25 increase each year in general, and we have it all spelled out. There's a couple where it might be 75 and then it goes down to flat once we hit that high cycle. So to answer your question is there are going to be increases in the bulkhead differential, but in that range of $25 a year to sometimes 75, and then based upon the schedule at this time, then it would be flat.
That's a huge hit per
$25?
year when you add 25.
Could somebody give me a
per year.
percentage? Well, it's also a big hit on how much the increase in the material and everything else is. We have been able to keep it flat over the last several years with some small increases. But if you go out as an individual, and I'm going to look over there to Novi and Eddie, because we've done this individually to get your bulkhead done, what you're paying a year and what you overall pay over 30 years is less than if you went and did it yourself. But if that's how you feel, that's fine.
Well, I have,
Steve just told me it comes out to a 4% increase a year.
yeah.
And you
which
feel
is-
that's,
Well, that's a much larger increase than
I know, but
we
the-
would expect on the base assessment. The base assessment is, increasing, very little each year. And that has largely to do with the great management that you guys are doing at your level in the expense and revenue ratio. But, and I know this is an unpopular position that I have argued in the past, but the Ocean Pines would not exist were it not for those bulkheads.
correct.
And the property owners who live along the bulkheads bear the full expense of maintaining something that is essential to the life of the entire community. And I would just like to offer that perhaps, given this huge inflation that we're going to be expecting over the next 20 years in the cost of bulkhead replacement, that be better shared by homeowners who benefit from the existence of those bulkheads but don't necessarily live on a bulkheaded property. I know it's unpopular, but I
I'm not, so, and,
think it's
so,
a reasonable consideration.
so look, you have your comment, you certainly, this is what it's about. Now, whether or not, everybody's going to have to decide on that. So you're saying that, I just can't help myself. So you're saying that somebody who lives on Manklin Creek Road, who has no access to water, doesn't see water or anything, should be paying for these You have 1 minute. You have 1
Okay.
minute. 1
I-
minute.
I realize that not everybody sees water, but Ocean Pines would not exist were it not for the canals and the bulkheads. So even though not every property owner sees water, every property owner benefits and their property exists because those bulkheads exist. Okay?
No, I understand your point. I do want to point out, and thank you, Colette, and thank you for the 1 minute summary. In this budget, there is a $25 general bulkhead assessment that everybody pays. That has been around since I can remember. Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's been 20 or 15. But in general, and this was way before me, somebody put that in, and it might have been for discussions like this, but there is a $25 differential that everybody pays for the bulkhead. Okay, good. Wait. Thank you, Colette. Sid, I'm done. I mean, it's 11 o'clock. Got to do at least now. Board want to retort on that or anything there, Mr. Lane? All right. But if nobody else has any questions, we'll certainly stay here. I do want to say info@oceanpines.org. I know several of you that are here take advantage of it. But if we missed something today, or you want more detail or whatever, please, info@oceanpines.org. This team, I'm involved with each one of them, will respond. This is why we're here. If not, thank you very much, everybody. Very good questions. It's all about the questions today. Thank you for the board, the association, and everybody else. I would think that next step, the board will, they'll take into account everything that was discussed, and then they'll let me know, and I'm sure somewhere down the road, there'll be approval. Thank you.